Hey everybody, how's it going? This video is about Combat Patrol, because my local gaming store that I do tournaments at is having a Combat Patrol tournament. It's a 600 point Combat Patrol list type of tournament using the Adepticon 2011, I believe it is, rules for Combat Patrol, which really are just the basic Combat Patrol rules from Games Workshop with some minor changes here and there. It's 600 points. I don't know if it's head-to-head or if it's 2-on-2. I'm not entirely sure. But I thought it would be interesting to try and get involved in that because I'm a fan of Combat Patrol. Now, granted, I played 400 point Combat Patrol, and that's pretty much it. So 600 points should be not that bad. What I did is I pretty much took my 400 point Combat Patrol list that I used for Dark Angels and I made it bigger. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over the list and then go over why I took what I took and maybe talk about after that some things I may want to change or think about changing if I have the time and actually get to making those models. But before that, I want to say I'm not a fan of the Adepticon rules in terms of the psychic abilities and the psychers. You can take them, but any psychic ability that requires a test you can't use in Combat Patrol, which doesn't make any sense to me. Maybe there's something in the metagame that I just don't see that makes it fairer this way, but I personally just think if you're gonna invest in a psyker, you're gonna be investing points into it, let them use their psychic abilities. But anyway, that's just me. So, where was I? Right, the list. 600 points, Dark Angels Codex. You need a troop choice, so I took one tactical squad. I made it 10-man. I didn't give it a special weapon. I'll get into that later. It's got a heavy bolter. It's these guys over here. And the sergeant has a power fist. A bit of a point-heavy upgrade for the sergeant, but I think it'll work out. I attached a Razorback to them, which has a twin-linked heavy bolter, and it's got a storm bolter on it. To the right, over here, is a 10-man Devastator Squad. It's got 4 missile launchers in it. Nothing special for the sergeant. It's a formula for success, pretty much, in Combat Patrol, the 4 missile launchers. They will do well. That's practically guaranteed. As long as they don't get wiped out by, somebody first turn, they're able to actually fire their missiles and whatnot, they will do fine. And then rounding up the list is a bit of a wild card, and it is this Landspeeder here. What was it? Landspeeder Tornado is what they call it, or something like that. It's got the assault cannon and a heavy bolter. Now, that's what I took. The tactical squad, I'll go over why I took what I took. They're a great troop choice and the only troop choice for Dark Angels. No special weapon because I don't have a flamer on hand right now. If I have the time to make a model up with a flamer, I might readjust the points a bit to include it. I'm not entirely sure. But I wanted the heavy bolter because the theme I want for this Dark Angels Combat Patrol list is shooty as well as redundancy. And as you can see, the heavy bolter in the tactical squad is redundant with the twin-linked heavy bolter of the Razorback, which is redundant with the heavy bolter of the Landspeeder. So if you get a lucky hit off on the Landspeeder or the Razorback, or you do enough wounds to kill off the heavy bolter guy right quick, you're not gonna just shut down my long distance, high strength shooting for infantry. Strength 5 is decent, especially in Combat Patrol. So that's why I have that there. It's multiple. And we'll get into that later with the missile launchers and all that. I put the power fist on the sergeant because it's a cure-all, basically. If I have to deal with vehicles in the assault phase or some type of walker, he'll be able to deal with it utilizing his weapon skill instead of having to rely on a chart for rolling with a melter bomb. If it's a walker, he's going to need a 6. And if it's a regular vehicle, it depends on how far the vehicle's moved. I only get 1 die. So I get on the charge 3 dice when I have the sergeant with the power fist. I think it's a bit intimidating. It's like, whoa, that's a power fist. That's gonna hurt. The Razorback, the only 2 options you get for the Dark Angels are twin-linked heavy bolter or twin-linked las cannon, and there's no need for a las cannon in Combat Patrol. The points are just too heavy for it. The twin-linked heavy bolter is great. I don't plan to put the entire tactical squad into a transport anyway, so if I combat squad them, the Razorback can deal with that. And it's better than taking a Rhino because it's got that heavy weapon on it that the Rhino doesn't have. Now I upgraded it to have a Storm Bolter. Well, it's better and for my instances for shooting. It's giving support. And I upgraded it to have a Storm Bolter, and the reason I upgraded it to have a Storm Bolter is without that, if they take out the heavy bolter, it's just a block. Now, granted, I plan to use it to run interference. I plan to use it to get in the way as kind of like a mobile mini wall. But I upgraded it for the Storm Bolter, so in the event that the heavy bolter gets destroyed, it's going to take another weapon destroy result before. It's going to take 2 more weapon destroy results really to get it to an immobilized result if you're going to rely on that. B, it can still shoot and harass the enemy with a Storm Bolter. Plus, move 6 inches and fire both. It's good harassment techniques. And that's why I went with the Razorback. I'm a big fan of Razorbacks. I think they're a great fire support, even in regular games. And in Combat Patrol, the 36-inch range, because it's a smaller board, is really going to come into play here. Now, the Devastator Squads, they form the core of your shooting, really. You got a 10-man Devastator Squad, 4 missile launchers. Now, real quick, the 10-man tactical squad without a power fist or anything like that, the Razorback, and then a 5-man Devastator Squad with 4 missile launchers is my 400-point Combat Patrol list. So really, I just beefed it up a little bit. I made the Devastators 10-man because that lets you combat squad the Devastators, which is great. You can do whatever you want. You can go all 4 in 1 and then 5 Baltimore Marines if you want that maneuverability for some reason, which I could see a reason for. I just probably wouldn't do it. Or you could do what I'm probably going to do 95, 98, 99% of the time, and that is 2 missile launchers in one, 2 missile launchers in the other. What this lets you do is pretty much split fire. Instead of having to fire all 4 missile launchers at one Rhino, I could fire 2 missile launchers at one Rhino, and I could fire two other missile launchers into a Horde squad with the frag missiles. It gives you some diversity there. Plus, if you have to, you can just double up anyway. So it gives you the option to split your fire if you need to. So that's why I did that. Also, more wounds for the missile launchers before I put them on the missile launcher guys. And they're going to form the core of your heavy shooting. Now, the Landspeeder is a wild card. I chose that because it's got speed, which means maneuverability, and its speed in combination with the weapons it has right now and the size of the board means it's going to be able to get places pretty quick, and it's going to be able to harass the enemy effectively, and if need be, blitz on back towards my position to defend it, or do whatever it needs to do that way. The assault cannon, while shorter range than the heavy bolter, does provide a decent punch. With the rending rule, it can do well against armor you're going to see in Combat Patrol. And again, that wild card is going to be nice. It'll help break up the monotony of the army, where the opponent can't just get a beat on my tempo and try and counter it, because I can kind of throw it a little miss with the Landspeeder. Now, as far as changing this list, the one thing I do want to do is get a Landspeeder Typhoon with the Typhoon missile launchers, because I think that'll add more redundancy with the missile launchers. Now, keep in mind, with the assault cannon, even the heavy bolter, I can deal with most vehicles I'm going to see should I lose the missile launchers real quick. But the Typhoon is more missile launcher on the field, which is nice, and it can still use its speed and maneuverability, but it can stay farther back. Instead of having to get closer to the enemy to fire off its assault cannon and all that, you can stay back, still use your speed to get to where you want to go, and pepper the enemy from a safe distance with those missile launchers, which is nice. So that's really the big change I'm thinking about doing, and if I do that, I'll have some extra points to play with, and I can do whatever at that point. But this is my 600 point combat patrol list for the tournament. Should I be able to get into the tournament? You know, I have to double check the date and try to sign up for it. And should I be able to do that? It should be a lot of fun. Combat patrol games I find are pretty enjoyable. It's a smaller game. They tend to go a bit quicker, which is also nice. And it'll be interesting to see a tournament at this level, which is different from what I do normally, which is 1850. It'll be a refreshing change. So that's it. And until next time, take it easy.